Welcome to Every MCU Movie Ranked. Just a disclaimer, this is just my opinion. I'm just telling you what movies in the MCU are my favourite, so please do not freak out if I put your favourite low down or something like that. Hello, my name is Adstosh and I love movies. So if you love movies too, then this is probably a channel for you. So why not consider subscribing for more movie related content just like this video. Just a warning, there's a very good chance I'll be spoiling these movies throughout this video, so you have been warned. So let's get going with the ranking. Coming in last place at number 20 is Thor: The Dark World. Now I don't hate this film and I don't really dislike it either. I like it. I like every MCU film. But this film has always been my least favourite ever since it came out. It's just a bit bland, dull and forgettable. Like, it has the opportunity to have one of the coolest villains in the MCU in Malekith, but he just feels so wasted and he's so boring and forgettable. It's just not a very exciting film. It's just very dark, and the brightest scenes in the film are probably in the Asgard prison. Just to put that out there, the brightest scenes are a prison. It just isn't the most exciting movie out there. Coming in at number 19, we have The Incredible Hulk. Now, a lot of people forget that this film is an MCU film because Edward Norton never returns to play The Incredible Hulk. This is the only time he's ever in the MCU. But it is. Robert Downey Jr. appears as Tony Stark, so it is an MCU film. But the problem with this film is that everyone forgets about it. It's the same with Thor: The Dark World. It's not really a memorable one. I watched this one a couple weeks ago and I don't really remember a lot of it. I like Tim Roth in this film. I think he's really, really cool. The final battle between Hulk and Abomination, however, is one of my favourite final battles in the MCU. I think that's great. But that's really the best part of the film, and it's only real redeeming quality. Apart from that, it's, again, like Thor: Dark World, just a bit forgettable. Number 18 is Iron Man 2. Now, it really pains me to put an Iron Man film this low because he's probably my favourite superhero, maybe apart from Batman. But it's just too much, this film. They've tried to add in too many storylines, and that's not good. You can't really get into one of the storylines, because as soon as you're away to, bang, it's another storyline. You got the Whiplash storylines, you got Tony trying to find his dad, you got the War Machine becoming War Machine, and there's just too much going on. I still really like this film a lot, but it's just, if there was maybe just a couple less storylines in this film, it could easily be top 10 for me. Easily. Now, number 17. This is probably going to be one of my most controversial opinions on this video. But number 17 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This film just disappointed me. I know a lot of people who feel the same about this film, so I guess that's quite good on my behalf, that I'm not the only one that thinks this film isn't really that great. But I really, really like the first one. I'll give you a little spoiler. The first one's quite high up on my list. And so I was, really excited when they announced that the second one was coming. But it didn't excite me as much as the first one did. Like, the villain, Ego, was never really revealed until the last sort of 40 minutes of this film, I think. I'm not really sure about that one. But it's quite far into the film, so the rest of the film is just kind of the Guardians milling about. There's no real sense of urgency. There's not too much happening. And the comedy in this film, while it still is a funny film, it's just quite inconsistent between the comedy and seriousness, because there are, scenes of torture and then snap just like that. It's one of the most funny scenes in the film, and it just feels a bit inconsistent and just disappointing, this movie. And then number 16 is Thor. Now, this is actually a really, really cool film. I do like this one quite a bit. It's just not the most exciting film in the MCU. The comedy works really well, the sort of fish out of water thing with Thor ending up on Earth. I quite like that. But I'm not a fan of the relationship between Jane and Thor. I know quite a few people feel the same about it. But I don't know, it never really clicked with me when I was watching this, so I never really kind of started shipping them and wanting them to end up together. But they did, and it's fine. I can live with that. Also, this film has a really good cast as well. But for me, I just prefer a lot more the sort of later films in the MCU. The earlier ones are not quite as good as the newer ones, in my opinion. So yeah, this one unfortunately ends up at number 16. another very controversial one here, but number 15 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming. I know a lot of you in your rankings will probably have this film top 10, and I'm completely fine with that. I can see why you'd want to put that top 10. But for me, there's just one massive problem with this film that really pushes it down to number 15 for me. And I know it's a bit harsh me saying this, but I'm not a fan of Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's a good actor. I've seen him in a few other films like The Impossible. He's a nice guy. I've seen him in interviews as well. But for me, I've always liked Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and I feel like he's my favourite Spider-Man, and he's probably the best Spider-Man, and he probably always will be my favourite. But yeah, I could just never really dig Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and I know it's really disappointing for me because I was really looking forward to Spider-Man being in the MCU. But yeah, for me, I like the film, I just don't like it as much as I probably should have liked it and wanted to like it. But I have no problem with you ranking this higher and disagreeing with me because I can see why. Number 14 is Captain America the First Avenger. This one's a really cool one because it is entirely set in the 1940s in World War II. And now the first hour of this film, when we get to know Captain America and we get to see him become Captain America, is really, really good. I like what they did with it. I think Tommy Lee Jones is really cool in this film, although he's not really in it a lot. But there's a lot of this film that just like never really wowed me. It just felt kind of average. But it's a really good origin story though, and I will give it that. I feel there's a lot of other origin stories in the MCU that I prefer to this one that just wowed me and excited me a bit more than this one. And the cast is really good in this one as well. I don't think there's anyone I could replace in this film, which is a good sign in a film. But yeah, just not as exciting as some of the other origin stories in the MCU, so it has to be stuck at 14 for that reason. In at number 13 for me is Doctor Strange. I've only ever seen this one once, and that was about 2 years ago when this film came out, so that's probably why it might be quite low down, because I don't really remember it all that well. But yeah, it just feels the most basic Marvel film. Like every Marvel origin story seems to have this sort of template of how it's going to work, and then this one is the one that you kind of feel that template the most being put into the film. I will admit though that the visuals in this film are fantastic, easily the best part about this film, and also the cast is quite good as well. Benedict Cumberbatch makes her a great hero, and Mads Mikkelsen is a fantastic villain as well. I love Mads Mikkelsen, but his villain in this was a bit Malekith-y. Like I wanted it to be better, but in the end he was kind of forgettable. But all that aside, this film is really cool from what I remember it being, but I just prefer Doctor Strange in the Avengers Infinity War rather than his own film. Number 12 for me is going to be Iron Man 3. Now I do really like this film. Every film up from this I really, really like. But there just is one massive problem with this film that I can never really forgive the makers of this film for, and that is what they did with the Mandarin. And I did warn you at the start there will be spoilers, but yeah, I'm really going to be spoiling this film here, so if you haven't seen this one, skip past number 11. But I do not like what they did with the Mandarin. Basically, in the film, the Mandarin isn't actually the villain. He isn't real. He's an actor who's meant to come across as a terrorist. He makes all these videos of him doing horrible things, like he killed someone in it. Well, he didn't actually kill someone. It looked like he did. But then the actual villain is Aldrich Killian, and he is a good villain. But I just don't like the fact that the Mandarin wasn't the villain, because when you watch the trailers, you think, okay, Mandarin, Ben Kingsley, he's the villain. I like that. And I guess that's probably what they were trying to do in the trailer. But I just probably would have liked this film that little bit more if the Mandarin was the actual villain in this film. I just didn't like the way that they just said, you know what, no he isn't. Guy Pearce's Aldrich Killian is. I didn't like that much. In at number 11 is the latest film in the MCU, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, I really, really like Ant-Man, and I really, really like the Wasp in this film. I thought she was very, very cool in this film, a great addition from the first Ant-Man. But I've got this one at number 11 because it frustrated me a little bit. I can't really tell you what frustrated me because, quite simply, I don't know. I just left the theatre, well, I enjoyed the film, but I just felt like there was that sort of kick it needed to be a better film. I don't know really what I was missing, but I just felt like there was something that wasn't there that should have been there with this film. The villain Ghost isn't quite what I thought she was going to be. She isn't the most villainous villain, but all that aside, I do like this film. It's fun, it's comedic, it's really light-hearted, and I like Ant-Man and Paul Rudd quite a lot, so number 11 I feel like is probably a fair place for this film. Another controversial one here at number 10, and it's Captain America Civil War. Now, for a lot of people, this film is in their sort of top 5, top 3. I'm fine with that. I can see why it is there for you. But the one problem is just down to personal preference for me, and that is I don't like the Avengers splitting up and fighting. I know it did look really cool, that whole airport scene, and I know a lot of sort of comic book fans and superhero fans wanted them to eventually just get into this mass brawl. But I don't know, I kind of just liked it all a bit more when they were all in harmony working together, and now the consequences of this film, them splitting up and stuff, influenced the next sort of Avengers film, that being Infinity War. But yeah, I do really enjoy this film, but I'm not a fan of them all kind of turning on each other. That's, it's just a personal preference for me. Number 9 is Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I do really like all the Avengers films. Out of all the sort of trilogies in the MCU, so the Thor trilogy, Captain America trilogy, Iron Man trilogy, and Avengers trilogy, Avengers is probably my favourite one. This is the lowest ranked Avengers film because it's just so confusing. Like, I've seen this film about 3 or 4 times, and there's still not everything that I understand. There's just quite a lot that leaves you sitting there thinking, what did that have to do with that? And yeah, I just feel like there's just too much going on. I like sort of what they did with the twins. I don't like how they killed off Quicksilver. I feel like he could have been really cool to have in Captain America Civil War and Infinity War, but yeah, it's just too confusing for me. If it wasn't as confusing, this could easily be sort of top 5 for me. I do really like how this film was made and things like that, and I'm just rambling at this point, but yeah, number 9 for me, just a bit too confusing. Number 8 for me is Ant-Man, a very fun and different film from the MCU at the time it was released, a comedy one. Yeah, there wasn't really any of them, and I really like the fact that they made this a really lighthearted comedy one, because they got Paul Rudd in, which a lot of people were quite skeptical about Paul Rudd coming in, thinking, a comedy sort of rom-com actor? Really? Is he the right choice for the MCU? Yeah, I think he was. I think he worked really, really well in this film. This film isn't about saving the world, it's about a simple heist. Get into the lab and make sure that Darren Cross, the villain, does not use the Yellow Jacket suit in a villainous way. It's simple, it's fun, and effective, and I really, really like this film. Number 7 is Black Panther. Now, this is probably one of the most mature films in the MCU. It's about a king and his kingdom, and then eventually he's overruled, and then he's got to fight back to reclaim his throne. This film is just so cool when I watched it. The visuals, the way Wakanda looks, the technology that they have, I thought was all really, really well made. And I just really enjoyed this. There's only one thing that I don't like about this film, and it's Martin Freeman's American accent. If you don't know, Martin Freeman's British. He's in a lot of British TV shows, and I like him in that. But because he's in an American film meant that, oh yeah, you kind of got to have an American accent in this. And I don't like his American accent. It's... If you don't know who he was, if you're American and you didn't really know who he was, you won't have this criticism. But for me, because I'm British and I've seen him in a lot of other things being British, I just couldn't get used to him having an American accent. It's a small thing for me, but yeah, apart from that, I really, really enjoyed this film when it came out. It was fun, it was just an absolute blast to watch. I would definitely recommend you checking this one out if you haven't checked it out before. Number 6 is probably the most light-hearted and funny film in the MCU, and that's Thor Ragnarok. This was a really surprising one for me, and surprising in a good way, because, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is surprising in a not-so-good way, but enough about that film. We're here to talk about Thor Ragnarok now. It's very surprising, this film, to me, because the first 2 Thor films were good, but they were sort of average at best, and this film just blew up, I didn't expect it to be so colourful and funny and light-hearted compared to the first 2, which are a bit dull and negative at times. And I think a lot of that is due to the director, Taika Waititi. He has his way of just making a film that extra bit just good. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just... This film just was so much better than the other Thor films. I was so happy with that, because when I heard that they're making a third one, I thought... Yeah, I could kind of see this being Dark World 2.0, but it wasn't. It was the exact opposite. It's just shy of the top 5. But no, I really enjoy this film, and I think if you've seen the first 2 Thor films and are like, I'm not sure about the third one, go and see the third one. Trust me, it's by far the best one in the trilogy. Into the top 5 now, and we've got Captain America and the Winter Soldier. This one for me always felt like the most sort of realistic MCU film in a way. It kind of, at times, doesn't feel like you're watching a sort of superhero movie. It feels like you're watching a James Bond or Jason Bourne movie, and I like that. The fact that it's not sort of all sensationalized, like, oh look, I can fly, things like that. I like that it's kind of simple and realistic. It's just a really exciting thriller in the MCU, and I think having someone like Robert Redford as the villain in this was a really good decision, because he's a brilliant actor, and I thought he was very good in this. Black Widow as well was really entertaining to watch. She was probably more entertaining in this than she was in the Avengers, and having Nick Fury as a sort of main character in the MCU film is also very nice to have. And also, I like how they kind of worked with the Bucky Barnes thing and the Winter Soldier. I like that. That really surprised me in the theatre when I saw that. And yeah, I just like this one quite a lot. My number 4 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. I ranked this one so highly because it's one of the most fun MCU films ever been made. And also, it's probably the biggest surprise. Prior to this film's release, I had little to no knowledge of these characters. And after seeing the film, they're some of my favourites. James Gunn just got so much bright colours and just so much fun action-packed sequences into this film that just made me love it. And seeing all these characters start off kind of not liking each other and hating each other, and then as the film progresses they start to like each other more and more, and then they're the band, the Guardians of the Galaxy that we all know and love. This one's number 4 for me easily because it's so much fun to rewatch. In at number 3 is going to be Avengers Infinity War. This is what 10 years of MCU movies was building up to, and it delivered. This was a fantastic film to watch. Now, a lot of you might be surprised that I've got it at number 3, because most of the MCU ranking videos I've seen, people have it number 1 and number 2. And I've never really seen anyone put it below 2. But I've got it in at number 3 because I found it to be a bit confusing at times. I get that this is a 2-part film, and that a lot of the questions will probably be answered in part 2. But yeah, I just found it a bit confusing, and also a few little bits I didn't like. I didn't like how the Hulk was in it for the first 5 minutes, and then Banner was never able to transform into him again, because as you can see on the poster on the screen, he's in it, and if you see in a section of the trailer, you can see the Hulk running in the background. In the actual film, Hulk isn't running in the background, it's Hulkbuster. It's Bruce Banner in the Hulkbuster. So I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get a bit more Hulk in it. But yeah, there's a few just little problems I have with this film that didn't quite push it into number 2 or number 1. But overall, a fantastic film and well worth the wait for me. And now, number 2 on my list is Iron Man, the first MCU film that was released. This is what started this whole series of movies that I've just talked about for the past 10 minutes. This is one of my favourites, and in my opinion, one of the best. It was the perfect way to kick off the MCU by getting Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man, and he's one of my favourite actors. I love Robert Downey Jr., and he is fantastic in this film. But this is, out of all the origin stories in the MCU, so, you know, Captain America vs. Avenger, Thor, things like that, this one is by far the best. This one was just the most interesting and fun and just exciting one for me, for Tony Stark to be kidnapped by terrorists and then build his first machine to bust his way out of there. And oh, it was just a great film, this one. One of the oldest, but one of the best for sure. And now, number 1, my favourite MCU film is Avengers Assemble. I've put this at number 1 because it was the first time that we saw all of these heroes on screen for the first time, and it was easily one of the most fun films I've ever seen. It was just so great to see Iron Man teaming up with Thor, Thor teaming up with Hulk, Hulk teaming up with Black Widow, etc, etc. This was just so much fun, and the villain Loki is great. Tom Hiddleston is great as Loki, and just made it exciting. The final battle in New York is easily the best final battle in any MCU film. It's just so much fun to watch. This film just blew me away the first time I saw it, and continues to blow me away, just how much fun and just how great it is, this film. It's easily my number 1 choice, and it'll probably be number 1 for quite a while unless Avengers 4 has something to say about it. So there you have it, that is my ranking of the 20 MCU films, and what a first ranking video to make. 20 of my favourite films. I love all of these films. Well, actually, I don't necessarily love all of them. I like the sort of 19 and 20. But anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a massive thumbs up. It will really mean a lot to me to know that you enjoyed it. Also, comment your lists, or comment your 20 MCU films ranked. Also, if you haven't seen all 20, just rank the ones you've seen, because it's really interesting to see what you think of the films, whether you agree or disagree with me. I actually quite like it if you disagreed with me, because it'd be quite interesting to find out about. And also, follow me on Twitter at @AdsTosh, because I will be putting up polls for films you want me to review, films you want me to rank, and just sort of teasers of things that are going to be coming in the future. So it's a good place to follow if you like this channel. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.